Slightly to the left of the platform, Supreme Chancellor Rax of the Zandari took the floor. His form, tall and sleek with silvery skin and a voice like tempered steel, spoke to the authority of his ancient race. He waved his elongated fingers dismissively. Humans have yet to understand the scope of galactic power. They talk of peace and cooperation endlessly. War, it seems, is too primal for their young, untempered minds. Rax's eyes glanced toward Liorna, a formidable diplomat from the telepathic scepter race, seated nearby. Her face showed no expression, but her words sliced through the chamber like a razor. Perhaps they simply lacked the capacity for it, she mused. Their world's recent history indicates a desperate struggle to overcome aggression. Primitive wars, confined to their tiny planet. Does that prepare a species for the complexity of interstellar conflict? Around them, murmurs of agreement filtered through the council members. Each race had at one time or another suffered at the hands of or fought alongside another. They'd all earned their seats through centuries of trials. Humans, by comparison, were a fledgling race, barely finding their place among the stars. The general consensus was simple. Humans feared conflict and had entered the council hoping for protection, not participation. But on the far end of the circle, Craver General Jorek, a towering figure covered in thick green scales, let out a grating, disbelieving snort. "Protection," he echoed, his voice loud enough to halt the murmurs. "If they expect us to guard them, they'll find no sympathy among the Craver." His amber eyes gleamed as he leaned forward, rows of sharp teeth glinting. "They should know their place. The Council has no need for fragile, wide-eyed diplomats." Rax's voice rose, attempting to bring decorum back to the chamber. "General Jorek, please. The humans are contributing a great deal to our collective scientific efforts. Their advancements in planetary sustainability are commendable and worth our respect. Just because they have an aversion to combat does not render them without value." Jorek's lips twisted into what could only be a sneer. What value is science if a species lacks the spine to defend it? If the Craver were not held to council laws, I would have already shown them what real strength looks like. His words cast an uncomfortable silence over the room. No one questioned that Jorek's race was known for their ruthlessness in battle. The silence was broken by the dry, aged voice of Sindar Uxel, a respected elder of the Lithari race, known for their wisdom and calm logic. His eyes, deep-set and almost luminous, held a spark of contemplation. "The human's desire for peace may not indicate fear, General," he murmured. "There is wisdom in restraint. And yet, yes, it's true. When I observe humanity, I see a lack of experience. They do not understand the extent of galactic hostilities. They might simply wish to avoid what they cannot yet comprehend." Liorna's eyes narrowed, her voice threading into Sender's hesitation. "Innocence or ignorance, the distinction matters little when it leads to weakness, and weakness can fracture alliances." She swept a quick, calculating glance around the room, noting the council members' quiet nods. "I propose that we use humanity solely as mediators. Diplomatic work suits their temperament. They can focus on gathering intelligence, perhaps even scouting in minor capacities, far from real danger." A wave of approval rolled through the chamber, and Rax tapped his clawed fingers together in agreement. "Very well. We shall limit their responsibilities to diplomatic and observational roles. Let them learn from our conflicts without joining them directly." The decision felt unshakable, and yet, in that very moment, the galaxy's older, battle-scarred members made a grave error. None among them could have imagined the true depths of human adaptability, or their hidden thirst for survival. The Council's resolution, so hastily passed, would soon haunt them. As the meeting concluded, Rax announced, "The Craver threat remains, but our strategies are sound. We will contain them and shield our core worlds. Humanity need not concern itself." A final murmur of agreement swept the chamber, and with that, the decision was formalized. Humans would remain far from the front lines, protected yet patronized, observers in a galaxy that deemed them timid. But high above the chamber, a surveillance drone hovered, relaying every word of the session to the hidden human outpost in orbit. In the darkness of that quiet control room, a human officer watched the broadcast with cold, calculating eyes. His lips curved into a thin smile. Underestimate us, will they? The underground command center pulsed with quiet energy, a fortress buried beneath the mountains of Earth's northern reaches. Hollow screens lined the walls, displaying alien terrain maps, star charts, and the latest intelligence feeds from across the galaxy. Around a circular table in the room's center stood Earth's top military minds, eyes sharp, jaws set with determination. At the head of the table, General Aldrich loomed, a tall man with a chiseled face lined by years of unyielding service and an intense gaze that could silence a room with a single look. "Let's be clear," Aldrich began, his voice low and focused. "The Galactic Council thinks we're harmless. They assume our fear of war is ingrained, a weakness they can exploit. That assumption gives us an edge. We're not dealing with friends here. We're dealing with factions that see us as pawns at best." Seated beside him, Colonel Way, a compact man with a mind as sharp as his precision-forged strategies, nodded. "And the Craver?" he asked, gesturing to a hollow image of the alien species, a brutal race with a history of devastating any world in their path. "The Council shielded them for too long, but the Craver have expanded far enough. We know their king's stronghold on Craver Prime, and if we strike, we'll cripple their command structure." Across the table, Commander Leto crossed his arms, his face a mixture of steel and skepticism. "We all know the risk. The Council has spies in every corner, and this offensive, it'll shatter whatever diplomatic pretense we've been clinging to." He paused, scanning the faces of his colleagues. "But maybe that's what we need. They want to believe we're weak. Let's make them regret it." General Aldrich's lips tightened into a grim smile. "Precisely. We've kept our advancements quiet, built our military strength in the shadows. Now, it's time to leverage every advantage we've kept hidden. This is more than a strike. It's a message." Colonel Way flicked his hand over a console, bringing up a detailed schematic of Craver Prime. He pointed to an expanse on the southern hemisphere, marked with a red perimeter. "This is our entry point. It's lightly guarded. Craver forces assume it's impenetrable. Our cloaking technology should get us close enough without detection. Once we're in," Aldrich continued, "we hit them with maximum force. Coordinated strikes on their key infrastructures, communications, power sources, command centers. The Craver King won't have time to rally his forces before we're at his gates." A silent, calculated energy filled the room. Years of secrecy and restraint had culminated in this moment. The Council had restricted humanity, held their talents back with diplomatic placation. But this mission was an opportunity not only to protect Earth, but to redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. "Admiral Grayson," Aldrich turned to a silver-haired man with piercing eyes, a veteran of Earth's naval fleets. "Your ships are positioned near the outer belt, correct?" Grayson nodded, his voice measured and steady. "We're in position. 3 stealth cruisers, primed and ready for deployment, with coordinated strikes from ground and air. The Craver will be in disarray before they know we're even there." The plan was daring and ambitious, and entirely dependent on secrecy. Humanity's cloaking technology, kept under wraps from even the Council, was years ahead of the galaxy's standard. It allowed Earth's forces to slip past detection grids and approach enemy strongholds undetected. But if the Council learned of this advancement too soon, the balance of trust and distrust would crumble. Colonel Way cleared his throat, bringing the conversation back to strategy. "The Craver King himself is our primary objective. Capturing him destabilizes their entire command. It's a high-risk maneuver, but if we succeed, they'll be scrambling to reassert power." Commander Leto leaned forward, eyes gleaming with cold determination. "And the Council? They'll see we're not the weaklings they believed us to be. This isn't just about Craver Prime. It's about earning our seat on our terms." General Aldrich gave a single, decisive nod. "Then it's settled. Operation Iron Veil launches at 0600 hours. We move with precision and overwhelming force. We're in and out before the council can so much as lift a finger. A tense silence settled over the room as Aldrich's words hung in the air. Each officer knew the stakes. This mission could shatter any illusion of peace the council had hoped to maintain. But for Aldrich, this wasn't just about aggression or conquest. It was about survival, about showing the galaxy that Earth wasn't merely another voice in a council of powerful beings. They were a force to be reckoned with, and if necessary, a threat that could not be ignored. As the meeting adjourned, Aldrich lingered, watching as the other officers filed out with a sense of resolve that hung thick in the air. In the quiet that followed, he turned to the wide, dark screen displaying the planetary layout of Craver Prime. In the quiet of the war room, his voice lowered to a murmur. "They wanted to see our metal," he said to himself, his eyes narrowing. "Now, they'll see just how dangerous a human can be." And with that, he pressed a button, initiating the countdown. The offensive was set in motion, and with each tick of the clock, humanity's hidden strength prepared to rise, ready to leave its mark on the galaxy. The Council's underestimation would soon come at a staggering cost. The blackness of space cloaked the 3 human stealth cruisers as they drifted through Craver Prime's atmosphere, unseen by the planetary defense grids. In the command bay of the lead cruiser, Admiral Grayson stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the massive, sprawling cities below, a complex of brutalist architecture and war-torn landscapes that marked the heart of the Craver Empire. He could sense the pulse of tension thrumming through his crew, a mixture of anticipation and grim resolve. Every crew member knew the significance of this mission, and every man and woman had trained tirelessly for it. "Deploy ground teams," Grayson ordered, his voice a calm steadiness in the tense air. "No alarms. We go in clean and silent." From the cruiser's underbelly, stealth pods detached, streaking soundlessly toward the planet's surface. The Craver capital below remained oblivious, unaware of the impending storm. In one of the pods, Commander Leto braced himself, feeling the slight jolt as his unit hurtled through the upper atmosphere. Beside him, the team sat silent and focused, weapons primed. Their orders were simple: neutralize key facilities, cause maximum disruption, and pave the way for the capture of the Craver King. As they descended through the dense, sulfurous atmosphere, the team's target, an energy relay station, came into view. It was a hulking structure of blackened steel, surrounded by patrols of Craver soldiers. Their reptilian figures, bulky and menacing, moved with a strange, primal grace. Leto glanced at his team, giving a final nod before the pod landed with a gentle thud. In an instant, they moved, cloaked in camouflage suits that blurred their outlines against the dark terrain. Silent as shadows, the team advanced, slipping past patrols and positioning themselves around the station. With a swift hand signal from Leto, 2 operatives activated charges at the base of the relay support beams. The explosion was contained, a burst of smoke and rubble that sent the Craver soldiers reeling, but left the surrounding area intact. The energy relay went dark, and with it, so did several of the Craver's outer defense systems. From across the capital, human units moved in tandem, dismantling power grids, crippling communication towers, and disabling critical infrastructure with surgical precision. Craver Prime, the stronghold of an empire known for its ruthlessness, was being brought to its knees in coordinated strikes that left their defenders in utter disarray. Inside the Craver Command Center, alarms finally began to blare. Soldiers and commanders scrambled, their roars filling the air with guttural, panicked shouts as they searched for the invisible enemy, dismantling their defenses from within. In the center of the chaos, the Craver King, Galactic, stood seething, his massive, armored form towering over his generals. His orange eyes burned with rage, his clawed hands clenched in fury as he barked orders in the guttural tones of his native tongue. "Find them, exterminate these vermin." But Galactic's commands fell to confusion as human forces continued their relentless assault. From the observation deck above, Admiral Grayson watched the unfolding chaos with a grim satisfaction. "They're scrambling, just as we anticipated," he said to Colonel Way, who stood beside him. "Phase 2. Deploy the strike units." On the ground, Commander Leto and his team moved toward the royal compound, the final target. The compound loomed before them, a fortress surrounded by towering walls and sentries bristling with heavy weapons. The guards were on high alert now, rifles aimed and ready. But they were no match for the precision and efficiency of Leto's team, who moved with lethal purpose, neutralizing sentries and pushing deeper into the heart of the compound. Inside, King Grolak's fury turned to a simmering dread. The humans' tactics were unlike anything he had encountered. They struck from shadows, dismantling defenses with chilling accuracy. It was warfare at its most efficient, and it was unsettling for a race that prized raw strength over strategy. The sound of explosions echoed through the compound, inching ever closer, and Grolak realized with a start that he was about to face this new enemy himself. In the throne room, Leto and his unit breached the final door, stepping into the cavernous hall where the Craver King stood waiting. Grolak's hulking figure was framed by dark banners, his armor gleaming under the cold lights. His claws flexed as he took in the sight of the human soldiers before him. Small, comparatively fragile, yet exuding a terrifying calm. "So," Grolak snarled, his voice a gravelly rumble, "the Council's pet cowards dare to challenge me?" Leto met the king's gaze without flinching, his voice low and hard. "We're no one's pet, Grolak. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity." Grolak roared, lunging forward with terrifying speed, claws slashing through the air. But Leto's team was prepared, responding with coordinated shots that hit Grolak's armor joints, staggering him. The mighty Craver King faltered, snarling in pain and fury as he struggled to regain his footing. Within moments, Leto's team had him subdued, bound in reinforced restraints that nullified his movements. The once mighty king of the Craver Empire lay at their feet, reduced from a tyrant to a captive. As they prepared to extract him, Leto spoke into his communicator. "Admiral, target secured. Craver Prime is under control." Above them, in the silent orbit of Craver Prime, Grayson's voice crackled back. "Copy that, Commander. Begin extraction. We'll send a message the Council won't soon forget." Leto glanced down at the defeated king, a cold resolve in his eyes. The Council had sought to restrain humanity, to confine them to the role of passive observers. But now, with Craver Prime lying in smoldering ruins, it was clear that humanity was far from passive, and certainly not afraid of war. The quiet satisfaction of victory lingered in the air as Leto and his team withdrew, leaving behind the devastated capital of an empire brought to its knees. The galaxy would never again question the strength of humankind. The hall of the Galactic Council was silent, a tension thickening the air as the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful races awaited the incoming report. Every delegate had been summoned, and even the towering, iron-willed General Jorik of the Craver was present, his usually fierce demeanor clouded by an uncharacteristic unease. They had received the initial distress signals from Craver Prime the day before, though those had quickly gone silent, leaving the Council guessing in the dark about the true cause of the disruption. Now, all eyes were fixed on the central holoscreen, waiting for the message from the recently subdued planet. A flicker, and then an image filled the screen. It was not the face of a Craver warrior or even an alien field commander. It was General Aldrich, his features hard as stone, his uniform pristine, and his eyes filled with a quiet fury. The Council members recoiled, a wave of shocked gasps rolling through the chamber. Aldrich's face was one they recognized, but not as they saw him now, not as the general of an army that had conquered a galactic stronghold overnight. Aldrich's gaze swept across his audience, holding each of them in turn with a look that silenced any whispers of doubt. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, his tone coldly formal, "I am addressing you today not as a petitioner, but as the representative of a sovereign power. We have taken Craver Prime. Its defenses fell, and its king is now in our custody. The statement fell like a hammer on stone, sending ripples of shock through the council. General Jorik's face twisted with fury, his fists clenching as he spat out, "This is treachery. The humans have violated council accords. This is an act of war." But Aldrich's gaze didn't waver, and his voice rose with a steely edge. "We were led to believe that our role here was one of equality, that the council respected each member species. Yet for years, humanity has been kept on the sidelines, presumed incapable of defending itself. We were underestimated, constrained by diplomatic barriers designed to keep us weak. But those days are over." The sceptred diplomat Liorna, usually serene and composed, raised a quivering hand. "And do you truly believe that claiming a single planet gives humanity the right to defy our protocols? The Council cannot allow this. You risk your entire species." Aldrich's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Allow," he repeated, his voice ringing with contempt. "The Council has not protected us. If anything, it has hindered us, controlling our potential under the guise of unity. Well, now we know what unity looks like and what it costs." He took a step closer to the screen, his gaze never breaking from Liorna's. "The truth is, we entered this council with good faith, prepared to share knowledge, to collaborate. But while we upheld our end, you relegated us to mere observers, dismissing our strength and resilience as if they were meaningless." Another voice broke through. Elder Sundar Uxla the Lithari, his tone solemn and measured. "And if you are indeed so capable, General, then tell us, what do you seek with this conquest? Are you proposing humanity now stands alone?" Aldrich inclined his head, his expression hardening. "No, Elder. We are not seeking isolation. We seek recognition. True recognition, not the illusion of a voice given only to appease. We seek our rightful place in this galaxy. Humanity does not desire conquest, but we will not be pawns in the games of others." Sender's eyes held a flash of understanding as he nodded slowly, sensing the shift in the Council's dynamic. He could see that humanity's challenge was not an impulsive act, but a meticulously planned assertion of their sovereignty, a calculated risk aimed at changing the Council's balance of power. Before anyone else could speak, the screen flickered and a second image appeared. It was King Grolak, bound and glaring at the Council through bruised, defeated eyes. His scaled face twisted with rage, yet there was no mistaking the defeat etched into his expression. In his own tongue, he spat out a curse, and the Council's translators rendered it with bitter clarity. "You, Council pets, think you've won a victory, but you've merely invited your own destruction." Aldrich's gaze remained fixed on the Council, his voice unwavering. "We hold the Craver King as a gesture of peace, not as a prize of conquest." His forces were poised to strike human settlements, and the Council was silent. When we sought help, we were ignored. So, we acted. Humanity will not be intimidated by threats. We defend ourselves and our allies, and we expect the Council to recognize our rights in the same way. General Jorik, bristling with fury, thrust himself forward, his voice a roar. "This is insubordination. You are in no position to demand anything." But Elder Sundar raised a hand, silencing him with a look of quiet authority. "Enough, General Jorik. We have all heard the humans' message. Whether we agree or not, their capabilities are no longer in question." Sundar turned to Aldrich, his eyes piercing. "Humanity has shown its strength, General. But power, if unchecked, leads only to chaos. If you demand respect, you must also respect the Council's laws, or there will be consequences." Aldrich's expression softened, though his gaze remained steely. "We understand the weight of our actions, Elder. Humanity does not seek chaos. We seek a Council that does not punish strength, that does not shackle its members with fear or bias. We will stand by the Council's laws, but we demand an equal voice in shaping them.